We had no wars. They said, you will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars.
It's another example of extreme dissonance or just another betrayal of his political base. Donald Trump appears to be on the verge of breaking another campaign promise. Miami Herald reporting today that according to sources with knowledge of the situation, the United States of America is now poised to strike military targets inside Venezuela, a major escalation of the Trump administration's military campaign against drug trafficking, alleged, which has so far been limited to airstrikes on alleged drug smuggling boats. From that report, quote, the planned attacks will seek to destroy military installations used by the drug trafficking organization the U.S. says is headed by Venezuelan strongman Nicolas Maduro and run by top members of his regime. They add that the targets, quote, could be struck by air in a matter of days or hours. This potential shift of operations from sea to land is because, as the Herald reports, quote, traffickers are now less willing to risk voyages that can be detected and targeted at sea. We'll bring into our coverage Democratic Senator from Connecticut, Senator Richard Blumenthal. He sits on the Armed Services and Judiciary Committees. Also joining us, former acting Vice Chief of the National Guard Bureau and member of the National Security Leaders for America, retired Major General Randy Manner is here. Senator, let me start with you. What briefings have you received on the success of striking drug traffickers? Have you seen evidence or images of drugs being found on the boats that have been struck?
What briefings? Zero. None. And as you may know, I think it's public by now, there was a briefing for Republican senators only, which is unprecedented. So we've seen no evidence, none whatsoever, as to who is in these boats, more than 10 of them that have been struck already, who are manning or operating them, what they're carrying, and where they're headed. Nor have we received any briefing as to what the strategy is in amassing 1/7 of our Navy, literally 1/7 of all our naval power in the vicinity of Venezuela, whether it is to strike those military installations, as the Herald and the Wall Street Journal have reported they're considering doing, and what the end game is. There was a briefing yesterday in the House for Democratic as well as Republican members of Congress, and my discussions with those members of Congress indicates that it was completely unconvincing and virtually uninformative. So this administration is concealing facts, if it has facts, that would justify such strikes. And next week, when the War Powers Resolution reaches the floor of the United States, it's sponsored by Senators Kaine and Paul, I think that this hiding of facts and failure to reveal any effective or promising strategy is going to give it tremendous impetus. And I know that the administration counts on pushing Maduro out of power by striking some of these military facilities, by generating opposition within his own military ranks. But I think that may prove to be a very far-fetched goal.
What is the pretext, to the degree that any was given, to bipartisan members of the House and Republican members of the Senate? Is it about eradicating the scourge of illegal drugs? Is it part of a plan to eradicate the scourge of illegal drugs from the place where most of them come from, which is through the border with Mexico? I mean, what is the cover story, if there is one, that you've been told?
The cover story, Nicolle, is that Maduro is a narco-terrorist state, and he is spreading fentanyl into the United States, killing Americans in that way. And it is an act of offensive warfare, in effect, an attack on the United States. That is the theory of their case, but it has a lot of leaps in logic and facts that are unfounded. First of all, the fentanyl is not coming from Venezuela or Colombia, it's coming from Mexico. Second, the amounts of narcotics coming from Venezuela in those boats is minuscule. And so the attacks on the boats are unavailing in terms of any serious impact. And third, there's no real evidence that Maduro's criminal enterprise is in fact an arm of the state conducting attacks that would justify acts of war by this country against another state. It's not like we were going after Osama bin Laden, who was holed up in Pakistan, concealing himself, and we fortunately and justifiably struck him down. It is completely different to attack another country, and he has to come to Congress. Constitutionally, he must come to Congress to conduct this kind of war and present facts that would justify it.
I want to bring in General Manner on the legal protections or exposure for the men and women of the military involved in these strikes. I have to sneak in a quick break before I do that. We'll all be back on the other side. We are back with Senator Richard Blumenthal and Major General Randy Manner. General, tell me what legal authority or protections there are for the men and women of the military involved in these strikes.
There's two different aspects to this. One aspect is if indeed the president directs military action against targets in Venezuela, that could possibly be a legal order. In contrast, it is not clear yet, because I also have not seen any evidence that says the attacks on these alleged Venezuelan drug boats is actually done by the military. I know that sounds unusual. It could very well be the CIA, which is bound by a different set of laws. It's also important to understand that if indeed military personnel are actually attacking individuals, these could be unlawful acts, illegal acts, and they could be subject to even investigation as potential war criminals. So we have to understand that this is a very dangerous, slippery slope that we're going down, no matter which way it goes. And I completely agree with the senator. These are actions that the president must go to Congress, and Congress must demand and exert their responsibilities to hold the president accountable for these kind of actions. He's already bombed Iran. He's already said that there are enemies within the United States. He's occupying certain American cities and comparing them to worse than combat zones in Afghanistan and Iraq, which I have been to, and there's no comparison whatsoever. So we have to understand where this administration is coming from and judge it based on the facts, not what he says. So we need to be very, very concerned about this continued expansion of presidential power.
What is the degree of concern that you can detect, General, inside the military?
They're very concerned. You had the Southcom commander resign. The four-star admiral said, for whatever reason, I'm done. And I know he's not talking yet, but I believe that later on, at some point, it will come out about that he perhaps disagreed what is either underway or where the president is taking. So he decided, I'm certain of this, that he cannot support the operation, and therefore he decided to resign. I believe that is the strongest indicator that there are actually significant wrongdoings going on in that part of the world, either by our military or by other American assets such as the CIA.
Wow. To be continued. Senator Richard Blumenthal and Major General Randy Manner, thank you so much. One more break. We'll be right back.